Welcome to today's episode, everybody. We appreciate you joining us. And I want you to imagine going from a world of working with the World Cup, Michael Jordan, even sitting next to Oprah, to walking away from medicine completely and building a life of freedom, impact, of purpose in the world of network marketing. And that's exactly what Dr. Bill Toth did. He's a former sports and neurology physician who's now in the top 1% of his company and has been for well over 2 decades now, along with his amazing wife. Today, we're going to dive into what it really means to live younger longer, how to redefine success, and why serving others might be just the ultimate longevity hack. So, with that, let's get into it with Dr. Bill Toth. Bill, welcome to the podcast, man. I really appreciate you joining us, and I've been really excited about this because you've been a mentor of mine for 15, 16 years now, ever since we met way back in Houston. And, I really value our relationship, all the wisdom you've shown into me, because you have a really incredible background, some of the people you've worked with, and just some of that wisdom. And I remember way back 10 plus years ago, man, I was like, every time I'm around this guy, I need to make sure I have a pen because he's going to say something that I need to write down. I need to remember. So, welcome, and I really appreciate you being a part of the show.
Well, thank you. And yes, we've lived out here now since 2009. And I remember a very specific dinner in a little Italian restaurant in Waller that doesn't exist anymore. But that that's the first time I have a memory of you and Vanessa and us connecting. And it was a great conversation. And a whole lot has come from there in that time for both you and Vanessa, and for myself and Julie. A whole lot has come out of that.
Oh yeah, yeah, great friendships and great memories. And so when we get into it, why don't you just talk about your background a little bit and where how you've gotten to where you are today, and then we'll get into some of it because I know both of us we live a life of service. I know one of your taglines is prospering by serving others, and that's such an important part of both of our lives. But yeah, why don't you tell a little about your background and how you ended up where you are today?
Okay, well, I was born in a manger. No, not really. So, I had a less than auspicious beginning. Um, my parents split when I was 6, and then my mom had an adventure of her own for the next few years, and we went from being really wealthy to being really poor, and we were really poor for 5 or 6 years, and it shaped me. It shaped one of the things that I love, which is feeding hungry children around the world. Because during those poor times, I do remember going to bed hungry, and it was not pleasant. And so um, I was angry at my mom for a while, but then I figured out once I became a parent how hard it was for her to do what she did at that time. She became a single mom when it wasn't a flag waving thing. It was you were looked down upon when she did it, like a castaway of society. So um, but it drove me into a life of service, always assisting people that had less. And when I had practices, there was always people I treated for free, or a dollar, or wash my car or whatever. I found if you do it for free, they don't really appreciate it or come back or refer. But if you ask them to clean your yard, wash your car, do something for you, then it was more of an even exchange, and that was good for everybody involved. And
That's
so
yeah,
I
that's cool.
practiced, yeah. And even when I practiced, we was about service. That it wasn't only treating patients, but I brought a fraternity to our med school. Uh, Myself and two of our students, we basically created it and brought it to our university. And instead of having hazing, our onboarding process was you had to find a senior citizen and go clean their yard, paint their house, fix their car, whatever. That was the hazing. And that really made a difference in the community around the school. And it made a name for the fraternity, which still exists today. They still do that today. And I'm
That's
super
cool.
excited to have been a part of it.
That's cool, man. That's that's a great way to think about it. Sadly, in so many schools, that is not the traditional hazing. So
No.
to have it that way, and for something to last, and I think that's what's so big when we go into to service. Um, you know, I bet you how many years ago was that?
30.
Yeah. And for that ripple effect to stay
Yeah,
there, right,
yeah.
for 30 years. I mean, when y'all started, you probably never thought like, "Oh, 30 years later, people will still be doing this."
Yeah, no, it's almost 40 years because it was 1988. So it's a long time ago. But then, I had a great career. I loved what I did. I was Mr. It, and my ego was absolutely huge until God said, I'm going to give you some humility in the form of a daughter.
Yeah.
And very quickly, my priorities shifted. And I very quickly, let's see, she was born in 94. So 4 years later, I put my practices up for sale. And because I was missing her life, I would go to work, it was dark and she was asleep, and I'd come home, it was dark and she was asleep. And so I decided to do something different. I tried a bunch of things that doctors are infamous for, stocks, commodities, real estate, flipping houses, silly stuff.
All the
Started a
stuff.
software company to do electronic billing for doctors before their doctors had computers. So that was one of my most spectacular business failures.
Yeah.
And then I was introduced to network marketing, which I had previously looked down upon. I picked a company that had, PhD scientists on staff, over 100 of them, developing nutritional products from plants, which is now a very trendy thing. Back then, it wasn't a trendy thing, but it is now. And that company is still in existence. It's about, whatever, 28 years old, 98 till now. So, whatever that is.
Right.
So almost 30 years old. And so they produce products using a genetic database now. They use a plant database and they use a genetic database to create products that facilitate being youthful. Living younger longer is one of the taglines that we use. And that really is the key. When I went to school, I had a professor, and his phrase always was, he was advanced in years. We always think people are older than they are. He might have only been 10 years older than me, but he seemed like he was 80. Um, but he said, life is motion, motion is life. You got to keep moving or somebody's going to put dirt over you. And so I started exercising from day one at college, and I haven't stopped except during periods of injury and recovery since. And I still exercise now 6 days a week. There is a day of rest. It is Sunday. It's a day of rest. There's a book that tells me I should have that day of rest. And so,
Right. It's pretty
um,
wise. Good wisdom in that book.
yes. And there's some good eating habits in that book too. There's a new book coming out. We were talking about publishing books earlier, but that distributor on our team that I told you about that's publishing now, that just got her letter, she's writing a book that it's a there's other books like this, but she's doing her version of it. Uh, how to eat right according to the Bible, and eat properly and eat for your better health according to what it says in the Bible. And so I'm cheering her on in that process. Go for it. We never know whether something we say or do is going to impact somebody. Sometimes we don't know.
Right.
And that's okay. And then I like to be in the background encouraging people like her. Like, I don't need to be the front line. I don't need to say I did that. I need to say, you know what? I nudged her just a little bit. Every man should have a child, every man should plant a tree, and every man should write a book. And I shared that with her. And so she's writing a book.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's what's so important because, especially in today's world, whether it's this form here through podcasting or going live on social media or something, it's amazing the reach we have now. And if we always look to just add value to people's lives to get to a different point where we're looking to serve people in whatever way. And I know both of us have had multiple instances where random messages from people we've never met have come back and said, oh my God, I tripped on this video, or I saw this thing, or you said this one thing at this event, and it rocked me, right? Like it really changed my paradigm, or it really changed my value of my priorities of where I'm looking at stuff. And again, it's so amazing. I always think in my mind of, throwing that stone in that in the lake and watching those ripples just go. We never know where these words that we speak are going to land, and truly just, oh, it might be that one thing that wakes somebody up and it's like, oh, yeah, I've been thinking about this wrong, or I really do need to take care of my health, or just like you were talking about, be in motion. Like I need to be in motion so I can actually live life and not just exist through it on a couch because I'm too tired to do anything ever. You know what I mean? And I think that's what's so much fun is we just never know the impact we can truly make on people just by sharing our voice, right? Just by or being the encouragement, or again, getting on Facebook sometimes and just sharing a thought, that might shift something in someone's mindset to where they want to improve their life. Or I mean, how many times have we heard, man, I heard this message you shared this morning and I really needed to hear that. You have no idea who they were, never met them. Sometimes I go live on Facebook, I don't even know what I'm going to say. It's just one of those things that just comes out, and all of a sudden someone's like, man, I really needed to hear that. And it's like, man, I always ask, and something I write down daily is I ask God to use me as a window for his blessings, whether that's monetarily, vocally, however, just to let me be a window for you, right? Windows talks about a lot in the Bible, but it's like, man, like, use me as that vessel, right, to make a difference in people's lives. And that's where I'm excited about this podcast kind of getting off the ground and launching it, because I just want to create a community of people that are very intent on getting the most life out of every single year that they have on this earth. I think that's where you and I resonated so much, because so many of our values are so aligned on so many levels, and we're very passionate about health and wellness. I know I've watched your health journey, and myself. I'm definitely in better shape at 49 than I was at 25, 100%. And I got hooked up with the same product line that you were talking about in 2009, 2010. I started taking it. I've been on these things ever since. I'm in so much better shape than I was, because we're actually feeding our body what it needs. We're actually giving them the good ingredients.
No, and that's super exciting. You know, I used to get real upset when Julie would tell people my age. But in the last 12 to 18 months, the response from people is like, "You're what? You're what?" And Julie gets that all the time because she looks like 20 years younger than she is, right?
Right.
And she gets it all the time, so she's used to it. I'm not used to it, and it's products. And we have a distributor on our team that's 92 years old, still feisty as ever. Don't talk politics with her. Holy moly. But she's been taking our products for 30 years, and she's outlived her husband, and she's active in her community, active in her church, giving back. She's always encouraging Julie to be, do, and have more. And she's 92 years old.
Right. That's
it's
awesome.
it's so refreshing to deal and interact with people that are alive and moving forward.
Uh-huh.
I think we said, maybe you said it earlier in this call or before this call, but people that have a purpose find a way to stay young and live longer. They have a reason to stay young and live longer. Because our purpose, I don't know that it's ever completed. You talked about being a window. One of my prayers at night is, let the light that surrounds me tomorrow shine through me. It's be a vessel.
Right.
Um, and I think that as long as we're having a vision for the future, then we also have within us is hey, I shouldn't really eat that piece of sugar. I should eat something green, you know?
It's so
So
true. Yeah, I think having a purpose, it does drive you, and I think that's what's missing in today's world. There is a segment of the population that is trying to glob on to something, and just because they don't have that inner purpose, they don't know what they want. They're just lost. They're just kind of floundering, and then anybody that gives them any type of affirmation, or acceptance, I might be a better word. They're like, "Oh, well, I'm going to join this, almost cult, right? This group, I
well,
want to join them because they're aimless."
we have 6 human needs. And so, you know, the need for certainty, the need for variety, the need for significance. Significance means I'm part of XYZ, or I am XYZ. And then the next one is love and connection. And so, and people want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And then we finish off the six human needs with growth and contribution, which, those are two of my favorite driving forces, right? Um, so, so, those six human needs, we have to have a purpose that meets those six human needs. And if we don't have that, then we get imbalanced. And we, strive to fill in the gap by making one of those the most important one. Like, for example, significance. That's a really big one for people. You'll see a lot of people that are striving for significance. They'll tell you what they did 30 years ago, but they can't tell you what they accomplished in the last week. You
Hmm.
know, they're riding off of their past accomplishments.
Right. So where is that shifted for you? Because I said you made fairly huge um, professional shifts, and I'm sure you caught all kind of hell for it by doing it. Because, like I said, you were highly respected physician. You did basketball camp with Jordan back in the day. You traveled with the World Cup. You had a lot, like you had a lot of stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, okay, I'm going to shift because your priorities shifted, like you said, when your daughter was born, wanting to be a present parent. I know that was a big shift for me going from traditional business ownership into our industry of direct sales and network marketing because I had no leverage. I had no system in my life. It just like with you, it was all on my shoulders and like for you, like I could never have went into your practice and did what you did, like you were the man. And so wanting to go from not only a good provider but a present parent, having shifts and then especially when I know you and I both went through it when we even told people we were making those shifts because our purpose and priority changed, right? Like we had a purpose to be a good dads and present. But then they all started coming at us and started talking and, giving us their opinion on what our purpose should be and catching all that flack. So, like, what were what was that like for you, and how did you navigate some of that? Because, you
You
had a
know, I- this is what my next book will be about because I've been dealing with that since I was a little kid. Like, who do you think you are? You're going to have your own paper route. Who do you think you are going to college? How do you know you're smart enough? Who's going to pay for it? We're too poor. We can't afford that. How do you know you're going to make it? What happens if you fail? And then when I was in college and changing careers, changing majors, right? And so I originally went to be an oceanographer. And then ultimately I switched to child psychology, which was really an attempt to figure out why my parents split. Um, and so every time I made these transitions, the family resisted. Family and friends resisted. There may have been one or two, like a girlfriend that was supportive, sort of, maybe. But by and large, the resistance was fierce. And there's something inside of me that says, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. And I really don't give a flip about what you say. And when I shifted and told them I was going to med school, there was another like intervention. How do you know you're smart enough? How are you going to pay for that? How do you know you can make it through? And blah 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 blah. And I was the first person in my family to graduate college, and that is uh, something that was significant at the time. In retrospect, there's a lot of people that were first to go to college in their family, and so and then I had a great career, and my um, you know parents were proud, etc. And my dad was always my biggest fan. My son, I don't care if you dig ditches or become an astronaut, just keep doing just love doing what you're doing. That's what's the most important. And when I told my family that I was going to give up my practices, sell my practices, and start network marketing, you would have thought a nuclear bomb went off in our living room. Because, back then, Amway was the biggest company still. It's still the biggest company on the planet today. And I love it when people say those things never work. Really? Amway's $9 billion still today, more than 70 years later, right? So, and so, um, it was a huge intervention. But I was stubborn, and I also my ego was too big at that time because I'd accomplished so many things, and I thought that network marketing would be a snap.
Right.
Well, I I struggled because you can't bring an ego to network marketing. There's just you have to be human. You have to care about people, genuinely care about people, helping them either with their health or to make money or both. And they will smell a rat or a hype from 10 miles away, like a white shark and an ounce of blood in an ocean. So, so, um, so I struggled for 3, 4 years. And then finally I got a rhythm going. I found the right mentor, and got a rhythm going, and, had some success, and then had some setbacks. And, I remember clearly one day being in the shower going, God, either take me right now or show me how to do this, because I can't take this anymore.
Right. Every
Um,
entrepreneur hits the crucible.
yes, yes.
Everyone. I don't care
And,
what you're doing, man, like, you're going to hit it, and I think that's I heard someone say the other day that the difference between successful entrepreneurs and unsuccessful is the successful just didn't quit when they hit those moments.
yeah. And so I'm grateful for our mutual mentor, Nathan, because he was that guy for me. Right. And I'm so grateful that one, when I first met him, I thought he was a twerp. And this, two, after I got to know him, I was grateful that I got to know him and wish I'd known him sooner. And I still feel that way today. I wish he had been in my life sooner, but I wasn't ready for him. And so between Nathan and Ann, those two people really gave me a balanced perspective, the never quit and love. Never quit, love. And when I finally started to get some traction, that's when the abundance started to happen. And that's when I met Julie. And um, wow, what a ride we've had over the last 22 years, 23 years.
For sure. So where did and like I said, I know like a lot of your emails, everything, kind of your taglines that prospering by serving others. What did where did that where was the genesis of that? Like what about that really is just so deep in your DNA now that really drives you to do what you do?
Because I've watched it produce benefits for everyone that lives with that. Um, and I don't mean benefits just for, a great lifestyle. I mean benefits for feeling whole as a human. I believe we're put on this planet to serve others. And the "we prosper by serving others" came out of my 10 years of working with Tony. His tagline was "live with purpose." I didn't really like that so much at the time, and it's his. I shifted mine to live with intention. What's my intention? My intention is to serve others. And so um, I started as a physician, I served others, but um, there was a point when I lived in Chicago, Tony started something called the Basket Brigade, where we started delivering meals to people that couldn't afford them. It was Thanksgiving meals. So we would deliver a huge basket of food to families. And the look of relief on their face, the look of gratitude on their face, you can't help but be nourished yourself when you do that, you know? Because there's a phrase that goes in my head, there, but for the grace of God, go I. And you look at these people and they made choices that didn't work out so well. And my parents made choices that left us in a weird place that wasn't comfortable. And somehow, somewhere along the line, someone reached out and lifted me up. It was usually a boss, a male figure, wherever I was working at the time. And I worked a lot of different jobs, mainly to know that I don't want to do that for the rest of my life.
Right.
Uh, I usually adopted a boss as a male figure, a male father figure. And there were several of them that were instrumental in helping shape me. And so that giving back, we prosper by serving others. It's just who we are on this planet. Well, that's what we're here for. I'll take it a step further. We're actually here to feed the trees. The trees got here first, then humans. We breathe out CO2 so they can live. So we're actually tree food.
That's what I never understood about some of this climate stuff. One night late at night, I'd fallen asleep on the couch. I woke up and there was this news thing going on about somewhere in Texas. They were building these carbon capture factories, and they were trying to capture all this carbon, create some kind of like little bricks out of it, and then they were going to bury them. And they never really went anywhere. And I'm thinking, God has provided every carbon capture thing factory that we need with all the plants that are around us. They suck up everything. And I was listening to a climate guy the other day, and he was like, "We're probably greener than ever because they are sucking up all the CO2." Like, God's not an idiot. Like, he knows what he's doing, And so how amazing is that balance between us and nature on how what we breathe out, they breathe in, basically, and it feeds them, and then they produce oxygen. It's like this.
Yeah, no,
It's
I
amazing.
and they were here first, so we're producing CO2 for them, so we're really just tree food. And so, but that's a you know, I guess it's the white aspen is the most famous. If you go to the middle of the country and you go to these giant aspen trees, they're all connected in the roots. They could be hundreds of miles all connected together of these aspen trees. And so I just look at humans being that way too. We are all energy flowing back and forth. We're exchanging molecules all the time, and we're part of an ecosystem. We contribute. Some people say we contribute bad stuff, but you know that might be true. But I think that the since we're just a small part of this planet, and we're 8 billion people, but really those 8 billion people could stand all in Texas,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
uh, anyway, it's mind-boggling, and then you start looking at, hey, we're just one planet floating in a universe.
Right.
You can really twist your mind around some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and that connection, when we talk about living a life, a quality of life, living a life, a purpose, living younger. I think that connection is such a huge piece, and I think that was such in my view, the evilness that came out of COVID was the separation, and we saw that disaster effect. How horrible was it that? And I know you had probably seen it in your time as a physician, where somebody's in the hospital, maybe not even conscious, but just having a family member there, touching them, talking to them, just that connection is it's so powerful. Even the unspoken words, just being there, holding their hand or doing something. And for so many people to have to pass away in these, and I think that's where a lot of people ended up passing away. They lost hope. They were alone. They were in this, especially the people in the hospitals and nursing homes that were just in this isolation where they had nobody and they had no connection with anybody. And they're in these, especially in the hospital, in these states where they need to recover, they need encouragement, they need connection, and it was cut. Right. And it was like, to me, that was one of the most heartless pieces of the whole thing, because I know I've seen it where, people on different levels respond just by holding the hands. Or I know even I was talking with a friend of ours, Toscarino, one time. She was, if you hug someone, I don't remember the amount of time, it was, 30 seconds or whatever it was, but like your hearts literally can sink, right? Like, if like, that's how connected we are. And to isolate people like that and cut them off. And we've seen that residual effect from that ever since, right? Like, so many people battle with mental issues and everything else, where they just lost hope, they lost purpose, they lost everything, just because that connection is so crazy.
Okay, well that disconnection and that separation goes back to the Council of Nicaea and Pope Constantine. So the separation of humans from God started a long time ago in the formal structure of the church. When Jesus said, even the least among you can do these and even greater things, he set the bar low. That's a low bar. He's purposely set the bar low. And so This idea of separation goes back centuries and centuries. COVID accentuated it dramatically. Um, the birth control pill started it, right? Women could take control of their life. And then the divorce trend. And, you'll see uh, women cheering each other on. You deserve better. You deserve better. You deserve better. And then the people get divorced. And then those people that were cheering them on disappear.
Right.
Now you got a woman that's alone with kids, right? And she's got to figure it out for themselves. And that's still on Facebook today. I still see that every day. You don't need to put up with that anymore. It's sickening. Um, and it's not real. If we just, we exchange molecules, we exchange energy every day, all day long. When we're in presence of people, you can feel it. Whether you're aggravated standing in line at the grocery store or Starbucks or whatever, at the gym because somebody's on the piece of equipment, we're in people's presence all day long, and there's energy being exchanged. Good energy, not so good energy. And so the idea of separation is false. It's completely false. We are completely integrated. If you look at it from a magnetic perspective, from an electrical perspective, from a molecule exchange of oxygen perspective to a DNA sharing perspective, we are totally connected on so many levels. And yet our culture promotes this lie of separation.
Hmm. Yeah, and in a lot of areas, and I mean, we go down a million rabbit holes with this, but if you think about even when you were talking about starting with the church, it's power ultimately, right? People want to be in control of other people. So if when the church started it, if I can be the person that you have to go through me to get to God, that's some power, right? Like you
And
need to
that's
confess your sins to me.
That's the ultimate separation right there, right?
Mhm.
That's a middleman separation, and that's pathetic. But and the good news though is we're in a shift right now, and everybody feels it. The world is shifting right under our feet. The power is shifting under our feet. The economy is shifting under our feet, and that's why um, the profession of network marketing is so important because you take the dynamic of energy between a male and a female, that masculine feminine exchange, right? The polarity difference, you take that's power. Like that's like the opposite ends of a battery, there's power there. And so that gives us the ability, like, how can I say this? My first wife couldn't walk into my office and do what I did. She
Right.
didn't have an education like I had an education. She couldn't do it. Network marketing is a level playing field. You don't have to have any specialized degree or knowledge. You just have to desire to make yourself better, make the world better, help people. And so I see the shift that's occurring in our culture since our current president was elected. The male archetype is coming to the surface again. It's almost okay to be a man out in the world, right? And so maybe not according to the marches happening today, but it's almost okay again. And that I see this rising as couples energy. The speakers that I follow, Tony Robbins and his wife, doing things together. Brendan Bouchard and his wife doing things together. You and Vanessa doing things together. Me and Julie doing things together. I see this couple's energy welling up since our current president was elected. And I find that very refreshing because that goes back to the Garden of Eden, right? So male, female energy combining, it's very powerful. And so um, I have hope for the future because of that. And I have hope for the future because our economy is in the tank. And during tough economic times, network marketing as a profession grows. Well, what else are people going to do? You know, you can't just go start an air conditioning business, or you can't just buy a lawnmower and build a huge business. You're limited on what you do day to day. So network marketing gives the ability to serve others, and it gives the ability of partners to participate equally.
Right. Well, and I think that's the biggest misconception of the industry of network marketing is the fact that, you know, the only way to build a big business, the only way to create wealth through it is by helping other people create wealth. You can't do it on your own. And to me, that was always the magic of that perfect win-win scenario. Okay, if I want to get to a point where I'm earning $1 million a year, I have to help a lot of people create a change in their life and their financial situation for me to hit my goals because honestly, well, I don't want to, but I could probably never sell personally that much product to generate that kind of income and for it to be leveraged and residual throughout, right? And the only way to ever do that is to help other people be successful. And I love that. One of the things that I always found interesting was meeting with somebody, having a deep conversation about what drives them and what some of their real goals and dreams are, going from that to, okay, if I partner with you and help you achieve those, then I'll achieve mine. But how magical is it because we're willing to sow into other people and partner with them on that aspect that we get to be a part of helping them, like the working mom that wants to be home with her babies. And by that partnership, we've helped them do that, right? That it's not taking away from the work that they did, but we got to be a part. Now all of a sudden mom's at home, or for you and I's situation, dad's present, right? And because we have that, and I think that's the beauty of this industry, because at the end of the day, you and I both had traditional businesses. It cost a freaking ton of money, right, to even start them, let alone keep them up, right, with all the overhead. And to take away all the barriers and say, listen, this is a business that is, it's a learned business. It's a learned skill set that anybody can learn, anybody can do. But the one skill set I can't give you, or the one thing I can give you, is the desire. Like I've yet to figure out how I can, if I learned how to do that, I'd be rich. But it's that desire to change, right? Now, if they have a spark of it, you and I, we've seen it where we can take that one spark. It's almost like a forest fire, right? We can take that spark and grow it, but ultimately it's down to that person. Do you really have a desire to create the change that you're looking for in your life? And how sad is it when, even when people quit our industry, I'm sure you've had it a million times, so have I, when people call and say, "Hey, I'm sorry. I'm not, it's not for me. I'm not going to do this anymore." Da da da. And what I always tell them, I'm like, look in the mirror, right? Apologize to yourself, because that's who you're quitting on. Like the goals and dreams and all the aspirations that you had when you first started, that's what you're quitting on. You're not quitting on me. You're quitting on yourself. And to me, that's the saddest part. It's like, what happened deep down? And I think that's that crux that you and I have both been through, both in traditional business and in network marketing. When we find those moments, some people will rise up and say, okay, yeah, this is a suck situation, but I'm going to keep going. And other people say, screw it. I'm going to go back to my job, because a job is easy. You don't have to think, right? Someone tells you what to do all day long.
And those perspectives are accurate. I'm going to add another piece in there, and then a story. So you're talking about desire, and that's part of it. There's also another part of it, which is deserve. And so I spent a couple of years interviewing people like John DeMartini and Joe Vitale and people like that in that space, trying to figure out, where does somebody's level of deserve come from? And the conclusion, after a couple of years of reading and listening and talking and interviewing, is it only comes from within. And so the people that quit typically have a low deserve level. I don't deserve to be free. I don't deserve to have money. I don't deserve to have a great life. And so that's something that we can't fix. If there's not a little flame or a spark there for us to fan, it has to come from within. And that, to me, goes back to purpose and creator.
Right.
And
Well,
um,
worthiness, right? They don't feel worthy of wealth,
right,
worthy of success, right? Like
yeah,
it's
that's
and so it's really that value of self.
and so I had a distributor quit um, right at the time that I met Julie. So that person quit right in 2003. 2 years ago, I'm at a celebration of life service in Dallas, and this person walks in the room. His purpose of coming there was to thank me. I had no idea. We talked about earlier in the call about impact that we have on people. I did presentations with this person every day for like 2 years, standing in front of the room, and we would tag team the presentation. And um, he thanked me for teaching me some of the things that we were taught in network marketing: how to be short, how to be concise, how to ask questions. He thanked me for that. He said, I quit for many reasons. He goes, and then he waffled a little bit, but he kind of sort of blamed it on his wife, but I didn't let him go there with that. I said, no, that's not really it. And because it isn't. He
Right.
goes, but the stuff that I learned allowed me to build a huge law practice. And so, and I'm just so grateful for the time we had together, those couple of years of learning and presenting together. And, and you know what? We've had other people quit and come back and say that kind of stuff, but that one was the most powerful one that I've experienced in my 27 years.
And
And
that's I've had that conversation with people where I've sat there and said, or that say they're starting with a new company, and I'm like, Hey, there is so much space. I hope you have success. I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope that's something that you there's something that you could take away from the time we had together that will help you be successful."
right. And that's service. That's service on our part, right? We be the best we can be on a daily basis, and we share with people the things that we've learned that have benefited us and helped us grow. And if they quit, we've still made a difference in their life. We've s- and not everyone will come back like those people do. Some people leave disgruntled until they grow themselves, and that's okay. That's part of the process. We can only have an impact on the lives that people let us have an impact on.
Right. Well, and that goes from every level. I mean, like I said, I know you spent 10 years with Tony Robbins, and there are people that allow him to have that impact in their life and to make a change. And there's other people that hear him and like, "Oh, this dude's crazy." Right. Like, and that's where it's like acceptance. And I think going back to that deservedness or worthiness, it's at your core, how do you view yourself, or what is your relationship with self? Do you love yourself, right, enough to be willing to go through the pain or go through everything? I believe in yourself. It's all that kind of stuff where it's, like one of the things when I first wrote out my definite purpose statement, there's a piece in there where it says, "I am a king and creation of God. I love him first. I love myself. I love serving others." So how do you view yourself deep down? And I think that's where the break is for a lot of people, is that, like you were saying, they don't see themselves worthy or deserving of success in this life, or freedom, or wealth, or whatever they might look. And so they pigeonhole themselves down to this, I'm just gonna have this little job. I'm gonna stay there even though I hate it. It's normal, it's comfortable. I'm not meant for more. And it's like, okay, that's where it's so funny in network marketing, and we've seen it a million times with people that have come and gone throughout New Skin, and where they just, at their core, they don't, even though thousands have hit major milestones with our company, have created true wealth and freedom, that have created just massive leveraged income throughout. But yet they're like, I can't do that. I'm not worthy of it. And it really gets down to how, I think, really how they view themselves. And again, if you want to live a long, prosperous, young life, it starts with how you view yourself. Because ultimately, if you don't think yourself is worthy of success, okay, do you view yourself as being healthy, as should be able to live a very mobile life, right? Because if you don't love yourself, you're just going to eat crap all the time. You're not going to take care of yourself. You're going to drink, smoke, do whatever feels good in the moment. But it's almost like anesthetizing yourself for a second, right? Because you don't love yourself, you don't view yourself in a way to want to improve it or to change.
That's
And we all have the ability to create the change we want if people were just willing to, again, love themselves enough to do it, you know?
So I look at it, that's back to the separation thing. That if you don't see yourself as part of humanity, right? You feel separate, then you don't feel as valuable. If you see yourself as a part of humanity, as a bigger ecosystem, you're going to feel more valuable because you know you're part of something. And then you're going to take the actions necessary to exercise, to stay young, to stay healthy, to eat right, to stay connected, to nourish yourself, to grow, to fill the six human needs in a way that supports you and the people around you.
Right. Well, and even Christ said it, like, don't forsake the assembly of yourselves to each other, right? Like, be together. There's such a power and energy that it is. And, and it's just like you listen to a song on the radio, you listen to that same song at a concert, it's going to hit you at such a different level because you're around people, right? And you're connected and you're all having the same similar experience. It's just like anytime and again, it's like listening to Tony Robbins on Facebook or going to one of his events. It's going to hit you so different.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's not likely you're going to start a fire in your backyard and walk and walk
Right.
on it while you're listening.
Right. Yeah. He's not gonna throw a video up on Facebook. You're like, I'm gonna get some coals, and I'm gonna do this. You're gonna be like, that's good for them, but I'm gonna head out. But when you're in that energy, and again, when you have that mindset shift to where again, that's where I've always sought out mentors in my life that are at different levels than I am because I want to start being around them. I want to see how they're thinking. I want to be connected to that kind of people, that kind of energy to help me expand my mindset even bigger because ultimately we've talked about this a lot but actually before the show started, but that abundance, there's no limits. That's the other reason I love network marketing, and especially with our company, it's it's truly limitless. And when you really look at the industry, there's no one ever going to tell you you can't have another customer, you can't have another distributor, like you can't go into, you can't do more, be more, and everything. And then ultimately, one of our friends, Alon, used to say, I heard him say before, okay, yeah, it starts with your personal needs, but at some point, if you want to build something of significance, it has to go beyond you. Like, what do you want to do outside of the food on your table and the roof over your head? Because you can build a small little business and be content and say, yeah, my needs are met. But I know for both of us, I remember you telling me a story about writing out a check to the church as it was being built. You couldn't cash it yet, but that was that goal, right? To drive you because you wanted to be a part where the church could open up without having large debt, and it's like those kind of things. It's like, okay,
And that that
if
came
I'm
out of
worried
my that came out of my experience of going to med school and having large debt. So
about
so,
right.
so I know that pain. So
Right, and that's it's a crutch, man. It's a shackle,
it's a
right?
shackle.
Mhm.
It's a shackle. Shakespeare was very, very, very smart. Neither a lender nor borrower be.
Right.
And this book, I bought this book for a young man that did some work for us because he did not have a level of deserve that is appropriate for his age. He needs to have a little more. So I got that for him, along with the other book that author wrote, which I know you've read, "The Power of Your Subconscious Mind" by Joseph Murphy. So those two together, that's his birthday Christmas present. Hopefully he'll read. Hopefully. But I think we've gone pretty far today. I think what I'd like to leave everyone with is this is a phrase as I get older that sticks with me and drives me every day, and that is, how do I want to be remembered? That we could lead this today and a satellite could fall on us because there's a lot of them falling out of the sky lately. It could be our last moment on earth, but so how do we want to be remembered? What do we do today that would be worthy of either writing down in a book or someone making a comment at our service, our celebration of life? And so that drives me a lot. I think about that a lot. How do I want to be remembered?
Well, and that's pretty raw in today's world right now. If you just look at some of the stuff that Charlie Kirk did, right? Like how he was remembered and before 32. If you really think about why was he that different? Was he something just special? Well, at the end of the day, he was a young kid. He started all that at 17, 18 years old with a vision, and then he just had the balls to go after it at the end of the day, right? He didn't let people say, well, you're only 18. What are you talking about? Like, yeah, 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 you're just a dreamer. That'll never happen. I mean, I'm sure he got all of that, especially we all know what it's like when we're 18, 19 years old. We have these big dreams. I remember my middle son saying, "I'll be a millionaire by 25," and most people would just be like, "Whatever." Yeah, oh, we all said that, or but he just was willing to go after it. And I remember him saying that, first and foremost, he wanted to be remembered by his faith. Period. End of discussion, right? Not uncompromising about his faith. But what made that difference and of why he continued and did everything he did before his 32nd birthday, right? He was willing. He had a big vision. He believed in himself, and he was willing to just go for it and not listen to what everyone else said, because he wanted to have that effect on people that went so far beyond him. And then we see now that effect that has happened, ever since his death, that it's just, I mean, it's multiplied, and that's where it's so funny. I was thinking after that happened and saw the effect that it had on everybody. It's interesting that almost every time the devil comes out and it persecutes the church, or there's a martyr for the church, it expands. And it's like, man, if these people
Well,
really want to shut down faith, they need to read the book, because
so that
every time that somebody does that, it blows up, right?
so one of the uh, I think the good things that came out of that tragedy is that when we go to church now, it takes almost as long to get in the parking lot as it does to get there, and and they're constantly now telling people, move in. If there's an empty seat near you, raise your hand. It's almost like it's Christmas or Easter, right? It's like the place is full now. And I love that, because that is the opposite of separation. The huge carrot and the huge gift of network marketing is community. And the same, we get that in church as well. Community. Church doesn't happen unless there are people there inside that temple. And so that's one of the best things that's come out of the tragedy for Charlie and his family, is that church attendance is up and community is growing again. And we're looking and sitting next to like-minded people with similar visions that are willing to assist each other.
Hmm. For sure, and I've said that forever. The magic of the industry of network marketing is the relationships. It's the community that
Community.
you build,
It's
because
community.
you don't have that in corporate America at all, right? Like, I remember when I was at AT&T, I was JH7353. I still remember it. I was a number. That's all I was to them. That's all I was. And they didn't care if I was successful, if I failed, whatever, like, shut up, do your job. You know what you're supposed to do. And that really hit me. There was two experiences with AT&T that hit me really big, that really pushed me into entrepreneurship. The first, I was driving to work one day, and where we live, you kind of have to go under this underpass to go on this main road. And so there was one car in front of me and a motorcycle in front of him. A tractor trailer truck was crossing the highway. The motorcycle hit the trailer, like smashed it. So I get out. The lady in front of me gets out. She just happened to be a nurse. She goes, "Hey, you know CPR?" I said, "Yeah, I do." She goes, "It's probably not going to, it's probably fruitless, but we have to try." And this was a huge guy. I mean, he was 250, 300 pounds. And she goes, "I need you to do the compressions." And so I started doing compressions. I could just feel all that cracking under me, which freaked me out because I didn't know you were going to feel that. And I'm like, "I feel stuff breaking." She goes, "It doesn't matter. Just keep going." And the guy ended up passing away. He had a lot of head trauma, but I get to work, and, I was late, of course. And I tell my boss what happened. And she was like, "Well, I understand your circumstance. You can work through lunch to make up the time you were late." And I was like, I didn't oversleep. I was trying to save a dude's life. Like, what in the world? Like, what kind of culture is this? Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, what the reason didn't matter. And then the second, when we got hit with Hurricane Rita in 2005, I believe it was, our infrastructure with AT&T was wrecked, and we actually had more damage from them clearing the roads and knocking down so many pedestals that we did from the actual storm. And so we were working 12 plus hours a day. I mean, us personally, we didn't even have power for over 3.5 weeks. Like it was a mess. And I remember the CEO was coming in town to look at, and we were told by our boss, like, unless he engages you first, you are not to engage this man. Like, don't talk to him. Like all this. And I'm thinking, we're rebuilding his infrastructure, but yet we're not good enough. We're too low to even engage in it. And it was and the difference between that and when you look at our company and the relationships we have in New Skin, even on the corporate side, I could pick up the phone today and call our CEO and talk to him, right? There's value. They see value in the relationships, and then even throughout the field. Again, I believe that's the secret of why it's successful is because again, you and I would have never met if it wasn't for this company. And so my life, even on a personal level, is so much fuller because of the relationships we made through this industry. And I believe that's why people, I don't know, you've seen it on your team as well as ours, that people that stay around and even through the bad times or the contractions of business, which happens in every business, it's because the relationships are there. You become like family, where you
Yeah.
can lean on each other. Or there's nothing more special to me that, well, even when my mom passed away about 2 months ago, the amount of letters or support or everything from people on our team, people not on our team, but just throughout the community that we have in New Skin was crazy, and it had nothing to do with business. It's because we love each other, right? We're family. We've been through a lot of crap together, and we have those relationships, and that's I think that's such a value of living a young life long into our 70s, 80s, 90s is that connectiveness, the relationships, and then getting into really being able to build something as well that you have the resources, whether it's time or money or whatever, to really make a difference in the world and to serve other people.
And then that goes back to setting the bar low, right? Even the least among you can do these and even greater things. It's not always about resources. It is always about resourcefulness, which comes from inside, just like deserve and just like desire. Those three things go together. We can't give it to a person, but we can fan it if they have it.
Right. Well, I think that's one of the things, people looking sometimes people have a negative aspect of volunteering or serving. And if you've ever done it, it's a very selfish act. It really is because, I've been on mission trips all over the world. Yeah, I'm going to help and work or serve or evangelize or whatever. But it's what you get out of it. I mean, at some aspect, it's it's kind of selfish because you're going to, drill water wells in Mexico and you see and you give them clean water, but on the fact like how you feel and like what you get back out of that, and if people would understand that, like there would be so much more volunteerism and service because man, just being willing, and that's where I've been so grateful that this industry has allowed us the freedom to be able to do stuff like that. Because
Yes. Yes.
corporate would never give you the time off or be able to afford to do it, but to be able to do it. And I know you've been over in Africa and help feed kids and do like all kind of stuff that we have the opportunity to do. And if people would understand, like I said, it's literally almost a selfish act the more you serve because you get so much. Like, man, it just fills you where you want to do more.
Yes. And it helps keep you younger and it helps keep you focused on the future and your purpose.
Right. Yeah.
So
Well, I appreciate you, man.
thank you for this opportunity to share today. It's been fun as always. Live with intention and prosper by serving others.
Let's do it. I appreciate you, Bill.
Have a blessed day.
You too, buddy.